Mr. Madan Mohan and Mr. Paramjit Bawa, thank you both of you for taking time out to be with us here at TV9 Network and Red Hat Communications World Travel and Tourism Festival. First up, before we go any further, Mr. Madan Mohan, just your thoughts on the fact that a travel and tourism expo of this scale is being held here.
Yeah, it's really encouraging to see such shows in such a grand way. It encourages travel agents to bring out more and more packages in different areas to be known to people. You know, so these are very important shows, and I think doing it in such a grandeur is remarkable.
And it's a good time, isn't it? This year, travel is expected to peak, Mr. Bawa.
Yeah, I think the India market was the fastest bounce back after COVID, after lockdown, and the world realized this, and there were a lot of competing economies which weren't really doing well, but India really jumped onto the bandwagon very quickly. A lot of the world is looking at India as a very key focus market now, and so yeah, this is a good time for these kind of platforms because they'll attract a lot of domestic as well as international business. There's a lot of interest, both within India and out.
And that's where eco-tourism fits in. There's so many different forms of tourism, from spiritual tourism to adventure tourism. Eco-tourism and tourism that is one with nature, potential is huge. Starting with India, isn't it, Mr. Madan Mohan?
See, it is actually one area which is really untapped. If you go to Europe, America, Australia, New Zealand, or even North American countries, Latin American countries, they have developed these areas in a way where, you know, there are beautiful natural sites are allowed to be explored, and you can build cottages, beautiful cottages, in an environmental way to protect it, like wooden cottages you can build, and other things you can do. You can do activities there. In India, the problem is a lot of these things stuck in bureaucracy, so many departments, and if they approve, then if some NGO or some environmentalist go and just file a case that you should not approve them, then they will cancel all the approvals also. So in India, it's very discouraging actually. But India has amazing sites, I can tell you. I used to be an avid traveler all over Himalayan regions and Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, even southern part. Orissa has amazing ecotourism places. But what lacking is good staying facilities. So I think that is discouraging a lot of people. But youth of India is looking forward for such places, and they are ready to explore, go. They always try to explore these places, and I think Indian government, especially the new dynamic honorable Minister Shri Gajendra Singh Shekhawat ji, I think he understands this topic very well, and I think I have personally spoken to him about it, and he is very energetic about it, and I think he will do something about it. So I think coming time would be better than what we had.
Something has to be done about it, isn't that the case? Because you have youth in large numbers taking to ecotourism in India and overseas, and it's India's opportunity to grab, isn't it, Mr. Bawa?
Look, I have a slightly different take on this whole topic of ecotourism. First of all, I just want to clarify one thing. When you read most of the definitions of ecotourism in research reports and surveys and studies, it's usually linked to outdoors, environment, natural landscapes, beauty. I think ecotourism should be extended to even city touring, within cities, in urban areas as well. It should not be just restricted to rural, outdoor, mountains, lakes, parks. No, you can practice ecotourism even within a city, and you should. Now, my take on this is that the youth, yes, they are aware and they want to do it. Unfortunately, What we've seen from surveys and research on students and youngsters about ecotourism is that there's a lot of lip service being made. So everybody that you talk to will say, oh yes, ecotourism is really important, sustainability, we always look for it. But do they actually practice it when they're traveling? The answer, unfortunately, is not as much as they should be. So there's a lot of need to increase the awareness of what you can do when you want to be a responsible eco-traveler. Reduce the use of plastics, try and do more of trekking, walking, using bicycles, reduce the amount of car and vehicle travel that you do. Responsible disposal of waste, that kind of stuff. Don't litter. Recyclable plastics. All of these things, you need to have a lot more work to be done in the youth space, because we are a young country. We have more than 50% of our population is below the threshold of 35 years. So we need to really get them to be aware. If you put 10 youngsters in a row here and ask them to define ecotourism, 7 or 8 of them won't really know what the definition is. They'll have heard the name, that's it.
Very important point you make. Ecotourism is not just about forests and mountains and lakes. It's all about practicing ecologically better tourism, conserving the environment. And in that sense, that is an awareness and an awakening amongst all travelers and famous tourist destinations across the world, isn't it? And that's the reason why so many famous cities are levying the tourist tax. So many cities are complaining of over-tourism as well. And that's because of the way tourists treat those destinations. And this is an awareness that is spreading.
True, and I agree with sir. Within the urban areas also, there are beautiful sites. Like in NCR, Bhati mining area is there, which is now hundreds of types of birds. It attracts a lot of wild animals like leopards are there, wild boar is there, a lot of antelopes, 2 types of antelopes are there, and so many other things. So if that can be a development, people around cities like Delhi can also enjoy, and as he said, people should be more responsible towards the environment while they are enjoying the ecotourism.
And how do you do that? It needs a concerted effort and a push, both from the authorities, the government's end, and the private sector, isn't it?
Yes, the government can do something, they can have a role to play, but the private sector, but it also comes down to other areas. So it comes from families, that awareness being passed from parents to kids. It comes from schools. You need to have curriculum in schools which focuses specifically on the need for sustainability in everything that you do, including travel. So it's not just private sector, public sector. It's schools, educational institutions, it's families, homes. The whole consciousness needs to be improved before you can really say we are an ecotourism responsible society. And I think that's still going to take some time. It's a work in progress. We've still got a long way to go.
It's a work in progress, long way to go. In that sense, it's both a threat and an opportunity, isn't it? You have so much of potential, but unless otherwise you do something about it, it remains a threat, and it will never turn into an opportunity.
Yeah, because India is a very big country that way, and every state in India have hundreds of sites which can be developed into superb ecotourism places. So I think there is a huge potential in India, and government, private sector, and every citizen of the country have to play a role, and then it can be a great way of doing it.
I'll just add to what he said. I'll give you an example. So my business is primarily outbound focused. So we work in European markets, Australia, New Zealand. I was once on a cruise outside of Sydney in Australia, and we stopped at a small island. And the captain of the cruise boat, it was a small boat, there was only 15 of us on it. We got off and we spent some time on the island. And when we were coming back to the boat, there was a carton, empty carton lying on the island. Just somebody had thrown it from a picnic. The captain turned back, he went, picked up the carton and took it onto his boat. Now, this is consciousness. It doesn't come from public sector, private sector, it comes from inside. That why should I allow this thing to pollute my island? I'll just pick it up. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't put it there, but I need to pick it up and clean the place. So it's coming from inside. This is what we need. It's there in the developed societies, the advanced societies. Unfortunately, as I said, we have a long way to go. You go to Qutub Minar in Delhi, for example. You'll see people have thrown litter there on the lawns after they've had their picnics. They've not bothered to pick it up. This is what I'm talking about, this consciousness.
Consciousness has to begin at the individual level, and that's where the real trick for ecotourism lies. I'm going to wrap things up. Unfortunately, we've completely run out of time here on this conversation. Mr. Madan Mohan and Mr. Paramjit Bawa, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here at the World Travel and Tourism Festival.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Big round of applause.